Hello everybody, it's Stephen here for the Idiot Quilter and welcome to my weekly episode. It is episode number 351 for March the 24th, 2026. So let's jump right into what I've been working on and talk about some of the finer points of these things. You have seen most of these before, but now they are, well, at other stages of completion, let's put it that way. So first one, healing waters. I'm sure you're getting sick and tired of me talking about healing waters. My pattern, but it is now completely finished and I've got it quilted and yeah, and I think it turned out really good. I'm impressed with myself because I didn't really know how this was going to look with the fabrics that I picked, which are all indigenous fabrics, because I thought they might be too busy, but I think it turned out okay, and I especially think by putting the darker fabric as the points really offset the busyness of the rest of the fabrics. Yeah, the black is busy too, but excuse me, but I think this combination does work, and I think it sets the panel off very nicely, and that's really the focal point of this particular pattern. Now, a couple of things about the pattern. The pattern is not yet available to the general public, and I have mentioned this before, what I'm going to do. My pattern will be free, and this pattern is actually a trio of patterns because I used the similar pattern for the quilt of valor that I made before this quilt, and then I used this quilt to test that pattern to make sure, you know, if I needed to do any adjustments or anything, and I have, and it's worked out fine. I have made a third pattern. It's the same one, but it doesn't have any fabrics in it or panels. It could be used with any panel you might have in your stash, because I know we see panels and we go, whoa, that's really pretty, and then it sits in a drawer for a long time or in our stash because we don't know what to do with it. I am the type of person, I don't really like working with panels, but excuse me, a little choked up here. But there are times when I do see panels that really are a must-have, like this one was one of those. So, you know, it behooves you, I love that word, behooves you, to keep it in your stash and not get it out and use it. So I have written this pattern so that it is more universal. Now, these patterns will all be available free, as I said, but to the people who sign up for my retreat first. Don't know what's wrong with my throat. Too early in the morning. So anybody who signs up for the retreat will get, as part of their electronic swag bag, they will get, or virtual swag bag, I should say, they will get the 3 patterns in PDF format, or they'll have the link to download them, put it that way. After the retreat, about a week after or so, I will make this all available to anybody who wants it. And again, as I said, it will be absolutely free. Now I want to tell you a little story about the quilting of this. Now, you know, Lucy and I, Lucy's my long arm, we have a love-hate relationship. She loves to hate me. I love to hate her. Anyways, I got her on to the long arm and away we went. And everything was working out fine until about halfway through the quilt. Suddenly, Lucy stopped. She just stopped. In fact, it was giving me a command saying, raise the needle. The needle was raised. So I tried it with the flywheel and moved it up a little bit and carried on. And it was fine. So I thought, well, that's just a little glitch, because I was using QuiltPath. QuiltPath is a computerized system. And so that would basically have not been really Lucy's problem. It was more QuiltPath problem. And away we went. Stopped again later on. And I'm trying to figure out, did this repeatedly. And I'm kind of freaking out because I'm going, what's wrong with this? Then I got thinking about it. When Walter's been using the machine, I am not blaming Walter, we have to separate the computerized piece from the main part. It's kind of like if you ever saw that Star Trek where they could separate the saucer from the main body of the ship. Okay, my nerd is coming out. Um, and there's a cable, and you have to unplug this cable. And it's one of those kind of cables with a little clip on it, and they plop in like the old style, sort of like the old style telephone lines when we used to plug those into the wall and into our phones and things like that. Well, that's so last century. So I thought the clip on that had broken off. So it wasn't really sitting in there as, securely as I would have liked, but it was sitting in there. Well, I did some investigation, and lo and behold, that was my problem. The vibration on the quilt, on the long arm, was causing the plug to jiggle itself out of the hole. It didn't come right out, but it was enough to disconnect it. And that's why I was having the problem. So I got out my trusty masking tape and tried to tape it all in to hold it, at least to get through this quilt. Now, I have spare cables. I bought some a while ago. APQS's cables, at least at the time when I bought the machine, are not the best. Even my APQS dealer told me that, and I had a problem with another cable at one time, and she suggested, told me what to buy. They're very inexpensive. You can buy them off of Amazon, and that would solve my problem. So I bought a couple of spares when I did that, and that fixed it all up. But I couldn't do it while I was in the middle of the quilt. Well, I might have been able to do it in the middle of the quilt, but I didn't trust myself to be able to get everything back the way it was. So I persevered. I finished quilting it and got it off the long arm, got the cable replaced. Everything's working fine on that. And squared up the quilt and made my binding. And when I was sewing the binding onto the quilt, and you know how if you do it by machine, you usually sew the binding first onto the back of the quilt and then bring it to the front. Well, when I was doing that, I was looking at the back of my quilt and I had a hole. Yeah. It was more a tear than a hole. It didn't go all the way through all the layers. It was just in the backing near the bottom, which turned out to be a good location if you got to have a rip. That's a good location for it, and I'll tell you why in a minute. And what had happened was in one of those incidents where the needle stayed down and didn't come back up, I didn't realize it was doing that right at that point, and I kind of tugged on the machine, and when I tugged on the machine, the needle made a nice little right angle tear, about an inch big. It just kind of went down and over. So I'm looking at this thing and I'm thinking, what can I do about this? Actually, I discovered it after I finished putting the binding on totally. I was completely done. Yeah. And I always, after I'm completely done, of course, I go over everything to pick up any little threads and stuff. And that's how I discovered this little hole. Good thing. Well, not a good thing. A good thing would have been if there hadn't been one there anyways. But, so, what am I going to do? Now, I know many people instantly say, well, sew it. Yes, and I'm a horrible, absolutely horrible hand sewer, and you've heard me talk about that before. I thought, well, I could use invisible thread since I'm a horrible sewer, and, no one's going to notice it's on the back of the quilt at the bottom. No one will probably even see this quilt. So, don't sweat it. But then I got thinking, wait, I have labels. I had made pre-made labels through Spoonflower of my Idiot Quilter logo. And I thought, I'll take one of these, I'll apply it with Steam a Seam 2, and presto bingo, it'll be finished. And that's exactly what I did, and it worked out fine. It doesn't, because it was so close to the bottom part of the quilt, it doesn't look out of place. Steam a seam, you're going to question, well, when you wash the quilt, will the steam a seam let go? No, it's not supposed to. It tells you that in the package, and I think there have been things I have put steam a seam on before that I have washed, and it's been fine. I did think about doing, like a little invisible stitching all the way around on the machine, but it would have gone right through, and so you might see an indentation, maybe not. in the quilt, like that's a rectangle where the label is. So it seemed to hold very, very well. This quilt is not probably ever going to see the inside of a washing machine anyways, because it's more of a decorative quilt than a practical quilt. So yeah, but you know, it's always something with Lucy in it. Yep, always. It just wouldn't be one of my quilts if it didn't have something that went wrong during the quilting. But as I said, it is now completely finished, and the pattern will be available to you very soon. Okay, moving on from that story of the quilt, let's talk about the African Safari Table Runner. And this is the one you know I've been working on. It's an in the hoop project. All those panels are done in the hoop. They take about a little over an hour each panel, and then you have to sew them all together. And I added borders, and I added a backing, and it's got a binding, and it's all done, and I think it turned out nice. And this is going to be a gift for the next door neighbors. And you've heard me tell you about that. Words fail me today. So this came out pretty good, but I have a couple of points I want to make about it. First of all, the layout. I did it. This is not the layout they suggested. They wanted you to do it as a straight line, all the panels. And then they added about 3 or 4 borders to it, and I thought that looked stupid. It was more border than panels, doing it that way. They did it that way so it would fit a very long table. But, you know, if I was making this for a really long table, and this is fairly long, this is about, I don't know, 3 feet, 36 inches almost long, so it's okay. I thought, you know, if I did it the way they wanted to do, it would just look weird. So I did it this way. And because the whole theme of this is the animals, the sunset sort of a thing by the water, and there's a reflection of them in it, I thought it just kind of echoes that reflection by turning the panels upside down so the water part touches each panel. Now, when you sit at a table and there's a table runner on it that has something that is very picture based, you know, half of your dinner guests see the table runner the right way, the other half see it upside down. This way, everybody gets to see it whichever way. Yeah. At least that's my theory, and I'm sticking to it. The borders I intended to make this a fairly skinny border, the yellow border, and that's out of African fabric. And the border here, the blue one, is also African fabric, real African fabric. Well, is it? We'll come back to that in a minute. I intended this to be, well, I cut it as unfinished 1.5 inches. And of course, finished, it would make it 1 inch. And it did. This one I cut at 2 inches unfinished, and it should be 1.5 inches. And it is. But the problem is, well, it's not a problem. It's okay. Is when you put the binding on, that takes roughly another 1/4 inch away from that. So these two borders actually look almost like they're the same size. But that's okay. That doesn't bother me in the least bit. That's just me and quilt math. Quilt math hard. But anyways, I think it turned out really nice. Now I want to talk about these African fabrics. The only African fabrics I used were in these two little borders. And these are fabrics I've had for quite a while, and I bought them at a quilt show, and I bought them from a place that's here in my province that I'd never heard of before. And they suck. You know, African fabrics they often refer to them as waxed fabrics. And you have to wash them before you do them, and they fray like a son of a bitch. Yeah. I bought a couple of kits with these fabrics in it, and I did I do one of the kits? One of the kits was for a table runner. I did that one. But I wasn't happy with how I worked with these, or how these worked for me. They're very flimsy. I don't think they are good quality African fabrics. And this woman who sold them to me, that owns the store, was not a very friendly person. She went on and on and on about, she sells these fabrics and part of the proceeds go back to an African village where they make the fabrics to help out the people there and all this stuff. I think it was bullshit. I really do. I had to contact her about the fabrics that were in one of her kits because they were all supposed to be African fabrics, and she'd stuck in for the backing, or not the backing, but for the background fabric, white muslin instead of, and it was an African fabric. And the one she had on display that was done that attracted me to that kit at the time, that's not this, this isn't a kit, had African fabrics in it. So I contacted her about it, and she tried to tell me that that was normal, that's what you do. It was bullshit. So yeah, I'm not impressed. Now, that is not to say that African fabrics are all like this. They're not. They're not, because I did get some time ago just from some other vendor at another show, and I've since used those, and I only bought a couple of fat quarters of those, and they were fine to work with. Not a problem at all. These, I think, are somewhat inferior. Anyways, using them in small pieces, you can get something out of them. The other little interesting thing here is one of my new subscribers, and I'm going to see if I can blow what I'm talking to you about up a little bit. Okay, I'm just going to move this, or I thought I was going to move this over. I guess I'm not. If you look down here into this corner, okay, I'm going to pull back out again because I don't think that's helping. Where is it? Go back. Okay, you look at these panels and how they're designed, right? They have different animals, different trees, things like that happening. Now, if you look at this one, second row down, 1, 2, 3, the fourth one in. One of my new subscribers asked me if this was a design element, if I had meant to do this on purpose. And I couldn't figure out what she was talking about. And I got looking at it and realized, wait, there's this black blobs, these two black blobs here, and this is supposed to represent water. And so these animals are in the daylight kind of a thing, being reflected in the water. And I think these little white lines are supposed to represent ripples in the water. And yeah, they do this in all the panels except this one. Where are these? Where did these come from? These aren't a reflection of anything that's up here. Now, at first I thought, oh, look at these trees that are here throughout. You know, when somebody designs something like this, if they already have a common element in the panels, they will, leave it in as they build other elements in it, or they may subtract them out as not needed. So I'm thinking they called up their program with the trees in it, like this tree, and they removed them from this part. They forgot to remove these two parts. Then Walter looked at it. Now, Walter's got a keen eye, as you well know, and he said, those aren't treetops. Those are hippos in the water. And if you look at it carefully, let's kind of blow it up again a little bit. There you go. Turn your head upside down and look at it. Those are hippos in the water. So you couldn't have a reflection the same, because there would be no reflection. Those are actual hippos, not a reflection in the water. I hope I'm making myself clear here. Oops, wrong way. Go back. But that's the only panel that has done that. And that's why this will become a conversation piece on my neighbor's table. They can say to their dinner guests, one of these things does not belong. Spotted. It's just, I get it why they put it there. I think that they probably had too much blue in here, like it wasn't filled up. If you look at the other ones, well, this one isn't really filled up either, except for the lines. So it would have been fine to have left it, but that's what it was, hippos in the water. So it's really not a mistake. It's just a design element that the designer of this pattern put in. Yeah, So in other words, don't blame me. I didn't make a mistake. Okay, I possibly did make a mistake with this though. Not a bad mistake, but okay. So I saw this on embroidery library. I think it was embroidery library. I think I have the link down in the show notes for this if you're interested in it. It was on sale. And I'm a sucker for a sale. It's an in the hoop project, and it's several different panels. There are 9 pieces to this. So, you know, you've got 3 across the top, the 2 corners, the one in the middle. Then you have, you know, 2 side pieces in the main middle piece in the second row, and the last row is the top row repeated. Okay, so 9 pieces, and you stitch them all out, then you have to sew them all together. Not a problem. The only problem with this is time, because yes, this is a table topper. It is not huge. It's only about 12.5 inches in size. I was thinking I would make 5 of these and sew them together. It'd be 1 in the center, and the other 4 would go around the outside. Now you would have sort of gaps, but that would work out okay when you're done. And this would fit on my round coffee table in my family room. Well, each one of these little panels took a long time to stitch out. And I'm starting to do the math on the timing of this to make all of those. And I'm going, no, it's going to take too long to do it. And is it really worth it? On top of it all, I think it's pretty. These are my color selections. It's not the colors that they were using, but you know, you don't have to use their colors. And oh, I think it might look a little too old lady-ish when it's done. So I'm not going to do any more of them. It's a one-off. I may back it. I probably will. And so there we go. It might be an attractive little piece somewhere on an end table, somewhere in my house or something like that, if I use it at all. But yeah. So it's not it's not because I dislike it. I don't dislike it. I just don't want to invest the time it would take to make this for something that I'm not absolutely sure I'd be happy with at the end in terms of decor element. Live and learn. But if you're interested in it, I think it's still on sale. It was $5 American, I think, on sale. So yeah, and the link for it, I think, I'm pretty sure I'll double check to make sure, is in the show notes. So if you want to get it, you can get it. How long the sale's on for, I don't know. Okay, so what else? Did I have something else I want to show you? Oh yeah. Okay, back to this mess. And you're gonna say, oh, okay, what are you doing here? Getting rid of your half square triangles? Yeah, I am. Actually, I made the half square triangles. I'm getting rid of some bits and pieces of old charm packs. And so I decided, Walter, you know, is working on Lucy. He's getting really good. We'll talk about that on So Chatty this week. But so far he hasn't done anything on like a real quilt. And of course, we all know if you've done any long arming, you have seams you have to go over when you're doing quilting, and free motion quilting especially. You know, it feels different, is what I'm trying to say. So I said, look, I'll make you a practice quilt. And it's a great way to use up these old bits and pieces. It's really kind of random, kind of not. I'm not good at complete randomization of things. So, you know, I made about 60 of these half square triangles, and I've laid them all out in the design wall, and they're still on the design wall. I have to start sewing them together this week, and I'll probably throw a border or 2 on it as well. And then he's got this to practice on. And, you know, if he's not happy with the end product, it's practice. It doesn't matter. It's a throwaway, or maybe it might become a blanket for one of our niece's dogs, you know, kind of a thing. We shall see. Actually, yeah, I mentioned the fact that at Christmas time I had made a quilt I made an orphan block quilt, and I thought about giving it to the same niece that has the dog, if as a dog blanket bed kind of a thing. But I really liked it when I finished it, so I didn't want to give it to her. So maybe I give her this one instead. Um, yeah. So, anyways, it's also a good little palette cleanser, because it's mindless, except for the layout of it. But yeah, making half square triangles is easy. I love half square triangles. I really do, because they're kind of versatile. And yeah, it just clears my whole brain because, of course, I'm working on the Alaskan quilt. I really feel like I'm rambling today. I really do. I'm sorry. There's something going on with my ears and my head, and I don't know what it is. It's just weird. But we'll carry on. So, what are we going to next? Well, what's coming up? Sewing with me on Wednesdays. Always links in the show notes. Everybody's welcome. Please come. Pop-up sew day. We had that this past weekend. It was, fairly well attended. There was about 20 some people, or yeah, about that, which is a good turnout. And I think people got a lot done. I got a lot done that day too. And I think a few people got enabled for products. And for those of you who've never been to our pop-up sew day, that's a running joke that people try to enable me to buy things. And I think I enabled a couple of people to buy things. Not because anybody's sponsored by any of these businesses, but they show us something they've got recently or have for a while, and you go in and go, hey, that's a good idea. I should get one of those. So that's what we call enabling. So the next pop-up sew day, not sure when that's going to be, because in April we have the retreat, and that's coming up very fast. Some words about that in a moment. We go to Japan in around the second, we leave about the second week of May. So I may be able to slip in between the retreat and when we leave another pop-up sew day. So stay tuned. Okay, so let's talk about the retreat. The announcement is out. I made a video telling you all the ins and outs about registering and what to expect from the retreat. Remember, the retreat is absolutely free, but you do have to register because I only have about 95 spots. And you're going to go, well, 95, that's a lot. It is a lot. And it fills up every time very quickly. So do watch the video. And those of you on the mailing list got all the information that's in the video in a printed form in a PDF file. I gave you the link for downloading that. But don't despair if you're not on my mailing list. And why aren't you? All you'll need to do is, if you want a PDF copy of it, is that same link will be in the show notes of that video. So yeah, and I've got the link for the video itself in the show notes for this today too. So lots of opportunity. It is important, if you're really thinking about coming to the retreat, but you're not sure, do watch the video. It runs 11 minutes and it'll tell you everything you need to know. And it also talks about my guest speakers, and I have a great lineup for this retreat. So yeah, do check that out. Okay, let's go to subscribers' comments this week, ones that I think are I would like to share with you. This one comes from Becky, and she says, I totally agree with you about quilting patterns written in paragraph form. I find them hard to follow, and some information gets lost in the paragraph. I like the step-by-step format. Then I don't miss important details. Yes, because I had said that Alaska quilt, those instructions are all written in paragraph format, and there's so much information in one paragraph, you get lost. You really have to sit there with a highlighter and, go through it all. It's so much easier, at least I find, for the way my brain works, that if things are listed as bulleted points or even numbered points, like do this first, number 1, number 2, number 3, it makes life so much easier. So yes, Becky, I'm glad to see that I'm not the only one that has that problem. Donna writes, I just finished my Alaska quilt. However, I use the Studio 180 rulers. She says, keep it up. You will conquer this quilt. I know Donna. She's one of the ladies that work at my local quilt store, and she's a fantastic quilter and has great classes. And I had thought about taking the class, but it just doesn't fit into my schedule at the time. And she says she used the Studio 180 ruler, so I would have been interested to see how she used those. Because that ruler that is recommended by the designer of this quilt, who designed the ruler, it does work. It's a little confusing. I think I've pretty much got it figured out now, so we shall see as we work our way through this quilt. But yeah. Okay, so Inez says, what am I going to do with this quilt? I'm not sure which quilt she's talking about. I don't know if she means the Alaska quilt or if she means the Healing Waters quilt. Well, I've already talked about the Healing Waters quilt and what I'm going to do with it. The Alaskan quilt, I have no idea because it's not done. And, you know, if it turns out fantastic when I'm done it, I think I may put it on the guest bed in there. I've got one on there now that I like, but, you know, swap it out. And Inez also says, thank you for doing the Accuquilt system. My intention was more on applique. However, after looking into the cost and how much I would use it, I've changed my mind. So thank you, and Walter. Oh, and she adds another note here. It would be nice to hang it in your house somewhere that people can see. I don't think she means the Accuquilt machine. I think she means the Healing Waters quilt. I think that's what she's talking about. And yeah, if I only had a spot to hang it. Well, I might be able to figure out something. Let's see. Yeah, because it would be. Right now, it is folded up and sitting in my rec room across the ottoman. That's where I have a little pile of quilts there. And every so often that pile gets a little high, so I have to pack them up and away. Yeah, it makes you really think, you know, okay, you make all these quilts. I really don't have anybody to give them to that appreciates them. And I do give to Quilts of Valor. That's a no-brainer for me because I love that group. So yeah, I try to make at least one, if not two, quilts for them every year. And as for other charity groups that I've experienced over time, and you've heard me talk about, so I'm not going into it now, but I just don't bother now with that. So yeah, I guess I needed to have children and grandchildren. Well, that's not happening. Okay, so last week on So Chatty, speaking of Accuquilt, we are doing a series on the Accuquilt, and we did the basics of using an Accuquilt, just the very fundamental guide to how you cut with it. Now this week coming up though, we're going to look at combining your Accuquilt with your embroidery machine, because Accuquilt actually does offer embroidery files to go with some of their applique dies. So I'm going to talk about all the ins and outs of that and whether or not, or can you get the Accuquilt embroidery files and not own the die? Evil. Yeah. So that's what we're talking about this week. And just yesterday in the mail, I got it. And I'm talking about the East Quilting Company's kit for the Peter Pan quilt, which is called Second Star to the Right. There's two color ways. One is what they call dawn, which is lighter colors, and then dusk. I picked dusk. And look at this packaging. John at Art East and Matt, they do a fantastic job from start to finish with these quilt kits. Yes, they're expensive. I think this cost me over $700. However, the fabrics in them are beautiful. The boxing is beautiful. The pattern's gorgeous. This isn't just making a quilt. This is living an experience. Yeah. So here's what it looks like inside the one box. Here are all the fabrics. I haven't pulled them out yet. He always adds a couple of extra little goodies in there. There's a patch in here as well. I think it's maybe could be a label. Sorry about the glare on that. But I didn't want to take them out of the package just because they're so nicely put together. And this, of course, is the pattern. Yes, it is a book. John's patterns are very, very well written. They are detailed. There's a lot of cutting. Yes, there is. But, and that's the one thing that may have put me off on buying one of these kits before, because I have a couple of his patterns, and I've done one pattern before, and I loved it when it was done. But I made the mistake of cutting all the pieces first. This is a so long. We're doing this one block, I think, a month or something like that, one part a month. So it's not going to be as overwhelming. It isn't hard. It's just a lot of it. And none of this is appliqued. It is all pieced. So that's what's in the main box. I also got the caboodle box. And the caboodle box is sort of the finishing kit. And now John did write me a little note. It was on the back of this little card. I mean, I love his graphics. He is an artist, yes, for sure. But I just love how he carries the theme of what he does through the whole process, the whole project. And in the caboodle box that I ordered, you get this is the backing fabric here. And in my box, there was also, he includes some threads. I mean, some of this, I don't know if there's any embroidery to do on this. Sometimes his kits have a little bit of simple hand embroidery for little accented details here and there, like the eyes on something or that kind of thing. So this may be part for that. There's also a package of hand sewing needles too. I probably won't end up using any of this thread, except for maybe if the embroidery thing, I'll give that a go. He's got some fun stickers in there too. And I got a t-shirt. Now, I have one of John's t-shirts. I should turn it the other way. It says Art East, and his slogan, of course, is cut, 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 cut. So, I ordered 2 of his t-shirts back some time ago. Well, actually, he sent them to me as a gift. And John's very, very, John and Matt, I should say John and Matt, because it takes 2 to tangle, are very generous gentlemen. They really are. And I haven't worn the other one yet. I should. And maybe on the day of the retreat, I will make a point of wearing the t-shirt. The only reason I don't wear them is I'm not a t-shirt person or a sweatshirt person, kind of thing is. But I was glad to see that this time he sent the one he sent to me. Now, I don't know if this comes in everybody's caboodle box, because he did write on the thing that he was sending me a couple of extra goodies. And you're going to say, well, why am I so special? Well, John and I have worked together. If you've been to some of my retreats, John has been one of my presenters before. And I've interviewed John on my channel, and I promote John. I promote John for many reasons. I promote John because, one, he's Canadian. So this is a Canadian product. I also promote John because I believe in what he is doing. You know, I've done my fair share of patterns that, like Alaska Quilt, that are not well written. John's are. He has quality fabrics in them. And John has he's created a community online as well. And he's just a really nice person. So that's why I support him, and John shows his appreciation for that. He didn't need to send me anything extra. I wasn't looking for anything extra at all. I appreciate it. And the t-shirt, coming back to that, this time he sent it to me. It's a large. I don't know what he's telling me, but yeah, because the ones that we got before, and it was my fault, I thought, oh yeah, you know, sweatshirts usually fit fairly big, so I got mediums. We can wear them. Walter and I can wear them, but they're a little tight, I hate to say. So large is very much appreciated on that. So yeah, that box was full of these goodies, and he sent me this. Now, I didn't order it because I already use Acorn pressing solution, and this might have been the little extra he was referring to. You can order this box, and again, this box is beautiful. I'm saving the boxes because they're gorgeous. So he sent me the complete set. I've got the pressing solution, the mister, the pen, and the precision piecing glue as well, and everything. Totally unnecessary, totally appreciated, because I do use this stuff all the time. And it's another Canadian product, and that's the other thing I like about John. He supports where he can Canadian uh, products and Canadian stores and things like that. So, yeah. So, thank you, John. I'm excited about getting started on this. I think the kickoff is April the 1st, and I'll keep you people abreast of how it's going for me with all of this. I do not anticipate any problems. I just hope I don't fall behind. That's all. Okay, so subscribers creation of the week. This comes from Parm Goslin, who is out in BC. This week's creation from a subscriber comes from Parm Goslin, and she writes, here's a quilt for show and tell. Wedge quilt is from around 2015, part of my works in progress in 2025. I had to take the course twice for this quilt, only because I put the quilt away after the first course, then I forgot how to put the quilt together when I was ready to do it. So, course was put on by the Vancouver Modern Quilt Guild. It turned out really good, I think. I custom quilted this using computerized quilting on my long arm. Well, yes, Parm, it did. Your quilting did come out very, very lovely on this. And this is a very unusual looking style of quilt. I have never seen one quite like this. I think it's done as wedges, but it doesn't look quite like wedges in the Dresden format, because there's these bits and pieces of colored printed fabric on each wedge. And I could see how that would take quite a while to make. But I think the most stunning part of this whole quilt is the quilting itself. Beautiful job. And I love the stripy binding that you put around the outside of it. I have never tried a stripy binding, and you're kind of inspiring me to do so. So thank you, Parm, for sending us a picture of this beautiful, absolutely beautiful creation. And that takes me to short tip of the week from YouTube, and this one is about a block that you create with scraps, which we always have scraps. We're always looking for fun ways to reduce our scrap pile, although I usually find when I do something with scraps, I end up with more scraps at the end. I don't know how that happens. But anyways, take a look at this. This week's YouTube short tip is one making a very basic block. However, it's very effective, and I could see a whole quilt made with this particular block. There isn't any talking in this short. It is just a pair of hands doing what you need to do to create each one of the units for the block. Now, this person uses scissors to cut hers, but most of us would use a rotary cutter. But it does show how fast this goes together and how effective it could be, especially if you're using scraps, because this looks like a really great block for using up your scraps. So the link for this is in the show notes below. Check it out. Okay, so under pattern possibilities, you know, as I've said many times, I'm working on the Alaska quilt pattern. So I have decided that instead of doing it like a series of videos that create a tutorial, I'm going to do it more as a journey. Like, show you what I have accomplished along the way with each of the blocks and what pitfalls I have fallen into as well. So this first one is organizing the fabrics that came in this kit, because I bought this as a kit. So I'm starting on a new project, and I don't know how this is going to work out. I have put this off, for a long time. I have had the pattern and the kit and the ruler that I need for over a year and a half. And every time I pull it out and take a look at it, I'm intimidated. But I'm not going to be intimidated anymore. The quilt I'm talking about is this one right here. This is called the quilt is called the Alaskan Quilt. This is a book that has it and other patterns. I was going to say other problems, and they could be. And it's by Edita Satar. Sorry, Edita Satar. I have a hard time with her name. And the quilt I'm going to attempt is right here. and you've probably seen it before. It's very popular. It is the, I've got a glare on here, but the Alaskan quilt, the Alaska quilt. I have seen this quilt before up front in personal, and it's a beautiful, beautiful quilt. When we were down in Berlin, Ohio, a year and a half ago, we went into a quilt store in that area called the Lone Star, I believe it was, and I saw this on display, and it had a kit and the ruler. It was an expensive kit. I think it ended up costing me, with the ruler and everything, over $200. Might have been more, but I really want to do it. Then I got it home, I pulled it out, and I put it right back in the package because, as I said, it looked very, very complicated. So I'm up for a challenge. So I am going to make this quilt. It may take me some time, but I need to do some prep work beforehand. First of all, I've read the instructions. They seem very straightforward, but it intimidated me because in the instructions it says to use a template that are on page 39, and I'll show you what those look like. And I do not like working with templates, especially if they're templates that I have to, photocopy and cut out and make, get some of that template material. I don't like that at all. That was one reason why I put this on the back burner. But I did buy at the same time the ruler for this. And this is the ruler, and it makes all of the shapes you need that are in the book. And I watched a video on YouTube, because where do you go when you're having trouble? You go to YouTube. And sorry about the glare. And I watched Edna, and I'm saying her name wrong. I know that's Sitar. I watched her use this ruler. She designed the ruler. And it's very straightforward. It does come with instructions. And she pointed out that this little chart that's right here is very, very important. Again, glare. Okay. This chart is very important because it shows you how to make each of the blocks, what pieces you need to cut out. And there's really only 4 pieces you need to cut out. You need to cut out multiples of them, but that sort of, after I saw the video, I went, yeah, I can do this. That's not that hard. So that helped me. Now, the next thing was, this was a kit. None of the fabrics are marked in the kit as to, which ones are which, but in the instructions, there is a chart or a diagram showing you the fabrics. And there are 6 fabrics in total for this. And they gave you pictures of it, and basically I was able to match up my fabrics to this chart that came in the kit. And actually, to give the credit to the quilt store, they had this all in a nice, attractive bundle, but they were in order. So that works out well. But what I did was I took the bundle apart and I marked each one. Print 1, print 2, print 3, print 4, print 5, print 6, prints. This is the border. This is the binding. Okay. The only thing missing in the kit, which is not unusual in most kits, is your backing fabric. Okay. So I thought, all right, this is doable. And just to make sure I don't get things mixed up, I took a picture of this layout with the labels on it, so I know which fabrics I need. Okay, so I have all my material. I have the ruler. Away we go. Not quite yet. I need to practice. So I'm going to find some other fabrics that I don't really care about, and I'm going to cut out some of the pieces, and I'm going to make test blocks. Now, the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to start with block 1, and I'm going to make a test block with other fabric, and when I'm comfortable with what that's looking like, then I can make all my block 1s. And according to the instructions, I will need to make, I think, what did it say? Da, 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 da. Okay. I need, for constructing block 1, I have to make Each block will be made 4 times, except for block 13. Okay, so I need to make 4 block 1s. But I'm just going to make 1 block 1 in different fabric to get used to using the ruler for this, so I don't mess up any of these pretty fabrics that are here. So that is what I'm going to do next. Okay, so my next segment here is, have you seen this? Just interesting little tidbits I've come across in the past week. And if you have some interesting little tidbits you'd like me to share with everybody, please send the link to them to me and I'd be happy to do that. But the one for this one is, have you ever wondered where your sewing machine is actually made? Right now, because of the state of the world, we're all very, very conscious of where things are being manufactured. And have you ever thought about your sewing machine? Sometimes we automatically assume that our sewing machines are manufactured in North America, or if they're like a Fath or something like that, or Viking, Husqvarna, that they're made over in like Sweden or Switzerland or Finland or something like that. Well, I found this little AI article about this. And it says most modern sewing machines are manufactured in Asia, specifically in China, Taiwan, Vietnam, and Thailand. Well, that's not a surprise because everything's manufactured there, right? While many iconic brands originated in the United States or Europe, almost all large-scale productions have shifted to Asian facilities to leverage lower production costs and establish manufacturing hubs. So not a surprise, because it is cheaper to manufacture things over there than it is here. So yeah, that's why most of our things are made there, and sewing machines are no different. They break it down though. Singer, Fath, and Husqvarna Viking are owned by a huge company called SVP Worldwide, and these brands primarily are manufactured in China. Notably, it says here Shanghai, and I can't say that one, and Vietnam. Now, Brother Machines is actually a Japanese company, but it has its manufacturing hub in China, Taiwan, and Vietnam. Now, Janome, which is the brand I prefer, are the high-end computerized machines that they have are actually made in Japan, while the mid-range, it says, or entry models, the ones with less computers than that, are made in Taiwan and Thailand. Okay, rented lips. Jukis are manufactured in Japan, China, and Vietnam. And most household models are manufactured in China. And Bernina, yeah, you were thinking you were getting a Swiss-made machine or whatever for Bernina. No, well, it says, while its top-of-the-line machines are still made in Switzerland, the majority of its production is handled at its own factory in Thailand. And Baby Lock, the same thing. The sergers are primarily made in Japan, but their sewing machines, and they have a partnership with Brother and Janome. They're made in China, Taiwan, and Vietnam. Now, the question here is, are any still made in the USA? There are no major domestic sewing machines currently manufactured in the USA. While companies like Singer and Baby Lock are headquartered in the United States, their production facilities are located overseas. And there may be some retailers who might try to make you think that these are American-made machines to appeal to the U.S. market. That would just turn us off in Canada. But nope, they're not. Everything is made overseas. So there you go. Now you know where your sewing machine has come from. And that's just a reflection of our modern world, how we do business. Okay, so that takes me to the end. Yep. So please like and subscribe and comment. I love your comments. I love to answer your comments back, and I love to feature some of those comments here for all to see, because you have valuable information in those comments. You really do. And I'm always open to suggestions for what you'd like to see here on the Idiot Quilter, and for any of my videos for that matter. So please feel free in the comments or send me an email. Make sure you check out the video, the links to the show notes for the retreat, so you know all the ins and outs. And I hope many of you are considering coming, because I think it's going to be a great day. Have a great roster of presenters as well. John from Art East is one of those people as well. Again, keep us up to date on what he has planned for the future, because he always has something in production. Yeah, so I hope you have a great week. Tune in to So Chatty on Friday, and we'll see you later. Go out and make something beautiful. Bye for now. Hi, I'm just going to interrupt my program for just 1 second to remind you to like the video, to subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for future notifications. That's all I ask of you. Show me a little love. Thanks.